Welcome back to the channel. We have today this Infiniti EX that's been severely abused. We're going to refinish the seat for you. We've had a request for a little bit more on color matching, so let's include that with this repair. Let's get to work. The backrest on this seat looks pretty good, but the bottom has seen better days. It's hard to believe, but most techs are still trying to fill in all of these cracks. Let's not do all that work. Let's erase the work and just refinish, if possible. To get started, I'm doing a little light cleaning on a representative panel here so we can get started with color matching at the very beginning. I have a leftover color that seems to me to be close. Let's see how close it is. This would be considered a premix color. Premix means that the pigment is already mixed with the binder. It's ready to spray. I don't stock premixes, but this would be a leftover from a previous job. Let's see if we can adjust it. The first observation is that it dries darker. So, our first adjustment is going to be that of value. We have no idea what the color is going to be, but we have to first of all adjust the lightness or darkness that we call value. When we get it the correct value, then and only then will we be able to truly discern the color differential. I like to make what we call in the industry a color ladder. I'm going to put this color next to the previous test, and this will let us see quite readily how we've done in our adjustments. Obviously, we have moved in the right direction, but just not quite light enough. But the value is so close that we can also see that we're missing the yellow component of the seat. So my goal here is to lighten it just a little bit more with the white so that our value is settled. And now a little bit of the missing yellow. Adding yellow means that we are subtracting violet from our paint. And that little hint of violet is what we were seeing in our test. So we've done a twofer. We've solved for value and we've solved for color on one trip. But let's continue building our color ladder and see if we're that much closer. As you can see, our value is looking really good, and that's our prime objective. Now, on close examination, we can see we can beef up the yellow a little bit more, and we see some red in our color. We can subtract that hint of red with just a couple of drops of green. So we are getting ever so close to what we might consider a perfect match. Perfect, that is, for suitability. We beefed up the yellow just a tad, and a couple drops of green is going to erase any hint of red that we saw that was objectionable in our sample. Now, because we've added extra pigment to our premix, we want to add a little bit more of our binder or our base, because we want to keep our ratio at about 20% pigment, 80% base or binder. So the pigments are about 1/5 of our total premix, or 1 part pigment to 4 parts binder, however you want to look at it. The beauty of making a color ladder like we're doing is that it reaffirms to us that our color theory is working Each and every step that we've taken to make the adjustments is based on sound color theory, and we can see it works. Let's go with that. In preparation for wiping in our color, I want to add a little bit of cross-linker. Let's not add the cross-linker to the mother load. We'll pour some out, something that's handy to use and carry to the seat, and we'll just cross-link that amount. The objective is that if we do have any color left over from this job, it will not contain cross-linker, and so it will have a longer shelf life. That being said, I'm eager to use up all my leftovers or all my premixes so that everything is fresh and I have no pigments settling in the bottom and getting hard and not being able to reconstitute that and use it as if you might find if you had a big stock of premixes. Premixes don't do me any good sitting on the shelf. I want to use them up. That keeps all the pigment in suspension, no old product. Now the next step is messy, so that's why I'm taking extra precaution here to mask everything off. We want to remove all of this damaged finish with 100 grit. Anything less and you are absolutely wasting your time. We have a solution that enables us to dissolve the finish that we are sanding, but it doesn't really hurt the surrounding finish. It's enough to soften what we're sanding and create quite a messy slurry, if you will. We may not erase all of the lines, but they won't be sharp lines. They'll all be feathered. They'll all be gradual lines, which might be pretty typical of what you would expect to see on a leather seat anyway. And because the leather is always going to flex where these lines are, less is best when it comes to filler. Excess filler will only be subject to more cracking. Acetone works pretty well for a final cleanup. It's also going to help speed up the drying of the surface. As you see, we're not letting the leather absorb a lot of the acetone. We're just dry cleaning the surface only. Use whatever tool you have handy just for cleaning out the seams, getting all the excess gunk out of there that we sanded up. Usually I used my Bondo spreader for this too, but it was 2 feet further away than this tool. And the closest brush I happen to have, I'm going to use to brush over this stitching. Something I personally like to do at this stage is to add what's called a leather primer. It's a water-based primer. It's rather viscous, rather thick, that is, but it will penetrate here where we've exposed the leather fibers. And the idea here is to eliminate any areas that would look dry. And it's going to give some uniformity to our surface. Instead of having coated areas and then dry patches, we're going to have a uniform sheen of finish over the entire area, seam to seam. A better start for working. I'm just about out, so I took the cap off here and got me better access, and we'll finish that up. It's time to restock this from my inventory on hand. Once that's dried, I like to take alcohol and just smooth out the surface, and this will make it tacky as well in preparation for our next step. In other words, no sanding. We still have no idea the extent of the damages left, So this is our time for a guide coat color on the entire seat. We're putting a good bit on our towel and we're pushing it in with the fingertips. Keep plenty of fluid there so that it can push in. It's the hydraulic pressure that gets this color forced down into all of these lines and all the grain. This hydraulic pressure is stronger than any air pressure that you'll be spraying with. Coming back to hit a couple areas that were rather thin to give us some uniformity here on our wipe-in color. Not wipe-on color, wipe-in color. Before even doing any repairs, let's put our first spray coat of color on to see what kind of uniformity we have in our finished product. It becomes obvious that we took care of most of our problems just resurfacing and no filling. And so we've prepped the seat back, wiping in a little color here on the seat back so that we can blend our color there and have the whole seat looking uniform as well. At some stage, I like to sand with 400 or 600, whatever you have handy, just to knock the nibs off of the seat. Every time you've wiped something into the seat, it can leave a rough finish. So any nibs come off of there now rather than later. And here's a little slightly damp cloth that I'm using as a tack rag. It's got a little bit of alcohol left in it. From the driver's side, I saw a couple of lines that we're going to need to hide a little bit better. So now we can use our filler, and we can use just a minimum in these targeted areas. We don't want to add a lot of filler here, just a little bit to minimize these areas. Only enough to put a bottom in an otherwise bottomless hole, as they say. We want this to halfway dry and then smooth it. Now after a minute, it's not quite dry all the way, but I can use some alcohol to feather it. Remember, we're not disturbing it by sanding it with sandpaper. We can bring those repair spots up to speed by wiping in a little color at this point. And another spray coat. I'm using a new gun here, and I'm finding with this gun that I'm spraying a little bit closer proximity than I'm accustomed to. I'm getting a feel for the gun and reacting to the output of the gun a little bit. I think usually I'm spraying from about a foot away, as a rule. Now it's time to make a clear coat to protect our pigmented finish. I'm using what's called a high wear clear. The advantage of clear is that it's not weakened by the addition of pigments. It's stronger, it's not as milky, meaning it won't disguise the look of the pigments much for its clarity. It's a product that's designed with a little bit of slip additive already. I just added some cross-linker here, but I'm going to beef up the slip just a little bit. To the retail public, a little slip in the coating feels good. If you needed to thin this down to flow better, you can add some resin, as I've done here. You could reduce it with some water, but by reducing it with some resin, you're not compromising any of the adhesion principles. Ready to go, we'll strain it in the gun and spray a light coat. Now, because that clear coat looked a bit shiny compared to the rest of the car, I'm going to add a little bit of flattener. We'll strain that again into the cup, and this time we'll spray another light coat and dry right behind our spray, and that flattener will kick in and give us a more matte finish. Let's say between satin and matte, somewhere in there. I've looked at the seat from the driver's side and from the passenger side, but as I'm getting finished up here, I wasn't looking at it from the glove compartment side, which is the camera view, and so you can see something that should require a little filler. And I didn't see that until I was just about done. So I'm going to come back and hit the spot that you see in this picture. So I'll add some filler. I'll feather. I'll finish. And forget it. Filler, feather, finish, and forget it. Or f if you prefer. The repairs in this car were not your typical repair. They were along the lines of an extensive repair, which meant they were much more involved and so required our top pricing. And since there were 3 areas of heavy repairs, that's our heavy pricing times 3 for those of you that wondered how we would bill such a job. So for a job like this, the customer has to put on his big boy pants and bring some cash. I hope that overview was helpful for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you here next time.